Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a good one lined up for you today. We're going to skip around a little bit. We got Rosie Rios. We got some clips from the Congressional hearing that happened today. Senator Toomey talking to Jerome Powell. We'll get to that, and you're going to want every bit of it. And a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on today. Somebody roll that beautiful intro. Here we go.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove and everything we're talking about here today. It would help if I turned the mute button off to be able to hear my voice, wouldn't it? 1.820 trillion for the cryptocurrency market cap. We are off by more than 4.5% right now. Obviously, the market is bleeding heavily. There is less money in the market than there was. It's not exactly rocket science on this one. Bitcoin over 41,000, but not even near 42 at the moment. Ethereum down at 2,800, almost flat, and we see Cardano at almost $2 flat, and XRP at 90 cents right now. Yes, it's a bit abysmal. And if we see XRP roll over to the back test support lines of about 75, 76 cents, not financial advice, but I will be getting another bag for me and Mrs. Backup. You can bet on it. Looking right here, what's going on with Songbird? I don't know about you, but we covered it this morning. Mr. BXRP did a great survey out on Twitter, and over 50% of the people that are supposed to receive Songbird have not. I am one of them. And I do happen to be waiting for Coinbase and Uphold to let us know what's going on with that. I would like to receive my Songbird. I don't know what's happening, but it is highlighted once again here by James Rule XRP, says that Coinbase is pocketing Songbird. This is ridiculous. If that in fact is the case, that would be horrible. I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but they need to get straight on what's going on. This whole thing has just been a bit of a mess, and I couldn't be more excited to see it all roll out. I just hope we get a chance to see it roll out. Looking right here, this is BitBoy right here and Ben Armstrong talking with Akon. Now, Akon has been a huge advocate for Africa and digital currencies and blockchain technology. Let's listen to this clip, because shout out to Akon for coming through his show and also for building for Africa, because he's doing it built on top of Stellar, which, full disclosure, I am tickled to say I hold some of that too. But listen to these great remarks by him that he makes here. Very, very solid points he's making here. Check it out.
So Acoin is the cryptocurrency that's created for Africa. It's the African coin. Ultimately, as you know, Africa is developing. It's the new and it's the future. It's not much that can convince you of that.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is developed. Only place left is a place that holds over 1.5 billion people that's 30% developed. And it's a continent that's the second biggest continent in the globe.
Yeah.
So you know, like, that's where all your future investments should be going. And Acoin is one of the leading, you could say, financial tools that's created to be able to support the local currencies that's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So ultimately, it is the future. So
really, really great points from Akon. And also a reminder, too, another person and project that is developing heavily in Africa also is Charles Hoskinson and Cardano Network. So very, very excited about what's to come from that. Full disclosure, holding both of those, Stellar and Cardano. So I'm feeling like I'm hitting a home run that hasn't happened yet. Time will tell. And looking right here, XRP is trading live on Prime XBT. We did talk about this happening, and apparently it is now live. So look, hashtag relist. I do believe at some point XRP, Ripple gets what they need out of this case. We could see a wave of relisting the asset XRP on secondary market, and I would be very excited to have that happen. Former U.S. Treasurer, let me pull this up here because my Twitter page is being a little bit difficult right this second, but former U.S. Treasurer Rosie Rios says XRP is for payments and Bitcoin is for speculation. It is. It absolutely is. And the beautiful part is that it's talking about use case for the asset XRP, and that is the price driver ultimately that takes over, and not speculation, which is what we've seen thus far. And truthfully, what else we've seen thus far is a huge amount of suppression because of the court case on top of XRP, the asset, as well. But this was also here. Wait a minute now. This is in order where I had this. Trust me, I've done this before, ladies and gentlemen. But let me go ahead and show you this, because I don't know if it's in order, but I wanted to show this next, because this here is also former U.S. Treasurer Rosie Rios also made another tweet claiming developers around the globe are working on a slew of other cases for multiple blockchains and cryptocurrencies, while XRP focuses on cross-border payments with XRP. And we know that they are doing that because there is RippleNet that was developed as well, which settles payments right now using hundreds of different customers and banks around the world. And they settle right now without the asset. And whenever they decide to, they can simply decide to start settling with the asset XRP and get the full scale benefit of the use of the native asset and really have savings at max capacity there. Now, this is an amazing tweet from Digital Asset Investor here that shows the Bill Hinman Ethereum Free Pass timeline. Now, look, why they decided to give Ethereum a pass is a question for the people that were at the SEC at the time. That means William Hinman and Jay Clayton, mainly speaking here. But if you go through this timeline is quite damning here. Just very quickly, let's look. November 30th, 2017, Consensus announces the Brooklyn Project. 13th of December, same year, SEC meets with Consensus. We knew Joseph Lubin, founder of Consensus, also met with them in December. We have may have been at the same meeting from SEC to Ripple Court documents. 24th of 18, we saw Jay Clayton speak at Stanford University Rock Center. 25th, the next day, Jay Clayton meeting with Andreessen Horowitz. At the time this meeting, Clayton appoints Chris Dixon to get industry players together, requests a memo detailing a framework. Industry players includes Perkins Coie, Cooley, McDermott, and Will and Emery, and Union Square Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz Venture Capital Working Group. Most also in the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. On March 26, 2018, Venture Capital Working Group Safe Harbor memo along with Perkins Coie memo sent to Bill Hinman at the SEC. Submission was supposed to be confidential but leaked. Ethereum is the only digital asset mentioned in the Safe Harbor memo. Funny how that happened. April 10th, 2018, SEC meets with CFTC from the SEC versus Ripple Court documents. April 19th, 2018, article on the Venture Capital Working Group appears in the New York Times. The 23rd of April that year of 18, SEC meets with Consensus, former SEC versus Ripple Court documents. May 10th, 2018, Charles Gasparino, Fox News, reports on the Brooklyn Project, says Andrew Keyes told him the Brooklyn Project was sanctioned by the SEC and they were also working with the CFTC. June 8, 2018, SEC meets with Consensus from SEC versus Ripple Court documents. That's pretty interesting. June 14, 2018, Bill Hinman gives the Ethereum Free Pass speech at the Yahoo Finance All Market Summit. Joseph Lubin of Consensus and also Ethereum founder is also a speaker. Hinman claims this is not the official position of the SEC, and later in a signed affidavit in the SEC versus Ripple claims the speech was only his opinion. His personal opinion. Before, during, and after this timeline, Ripple and the entire crypto industry besides Ethereum and Bitcoin have been begging for regulatory clarity and gotten nothing but enforcement actions. We need a level playing field and the SEC that does not pick winners and losers. You just can't lay it out any better than that. You really can't. And this is the latest here from Charles Gasparino, who's responding to XRP Max. It says, I understand what you're saying, Charles, but in this case, it's definitely corruption to him. What he is saying, and we don't take that word lightly, and we're not saying it's corruption just because the SEC charged Ripple. We're saying it because it's corruption after the overwhelming evidence shown by Digital Asset Investor. And Charles says, I'm not saying I support the SEC's case against Ripple, far from it. People just have to be careful throwing around the corruption label. There's a lot of reasons why bad things happen outside the sphere of corruption and payoffs. And he's right. I do agree with that. There certainly is. However, I do believe that it warrants an investigation by an independent counsel outside of the SEC. I certainly believe we have seen enough information, and maybe he's not privy to that. So we'll see. I know that the XRP community is frustrated, Charles Gasparino says, but we all need a timeout. Just because the SEC charged Ripple doesn't mean there is corruption at the agency. The SEC is a bureaucracy, and bureaucracies do stuff that could be unfair without payoffs, etc. It's the nature of the beast. You know, this gets tough. It gets very tough here. Look, I have said in many instances when I have seen things, this appears to be, possibly corruption, right? The things that we have seen and shown, and maybe Charles Gasparino has not seen all of those things. But I tell you, there are some quite damning things, and none of them are just our speculation. It is their own words on video that makes it seem so damning. This is why I feel like at the end of the day, if we're going to take a time out, and I'm certainly willing to, but I'm only willing to take a time out if we can get an independent counsel to put a full investigation together over how this happened, because I do believe it's very difficult to believe that agencies, bureaucracies are not just things in and of themselves. They are people we're talking about, and people make decisions for certain reasons. And within the Hinman speech, he specifically says, notwithstanding the fundraising that Ethereum did. So for whatever reason, there was motivation on the part of William Hinman and everyone else who was consulted in the drafting of that speech, for which William Hinman claimed was his own personal opinion. Now, see? Now, here we are that quickly with their own words being caught on film or on paper, and that looks a lot like somebody could have possibly perjured herself in the Ripple SEC case, namely William Hinman. Maybe he didn't, but it certainly appears that way, and you don't have to have 12 years of a law degree to be able to see it. So at the end of the day here, there does need to be an investigation, because bureaucracies, governments, these are just words to say people with power that have a certain amount of power overseeing a certain thing. And these markets are what the SEC oversees. And for some reason, whether they were paid off or not, some reason they decided to give Ethereum a pass, and they're not backing down, even with the newest appointed chair, Gary Gensler. You tell me why, and we'll both know. Again, this was the Rosie Rios news here, where she really got challenged by the first tweet that she had put out. And then she came out and said, basically, look, there's multiple use cases happening around the world. I didn't mean to say there was only one use case. There was one jerk out here that eats too much pizza was said something about it. It's not a big deal. But the reality here is that Ripple early on focused on the thesis that will become cheaper to source liquidity for cross-border payments with cryptocurrency over traditional fiat if crypto grows in volume around the world and you can make bigger payments with it. Liquidity plus utility equals volume and price over time. Miguel Villas, baby. Liquidity plus utility equals price over time. That's what you're talking about. The more you can bring the daily volume and payment flows and transactions and assets onto the XRP ledger, the deeper you can make the level of liquidity for it. It's like filling a pool full of water. And the deeper that pool is, the more you can service the bigger and volume amount of payments. It's just the formula. It just is, right? So there we have that here. We see also a reminder I covered this morning's video. I'm not going to go back through it, but there is a lot going on in Congress, and we have a little clip from the Congressional hearing today. I want to play you Pat Toomey's clip talking to Jerome Powell about stablecoins here, and then also tell you that it is in this. Well, that's a different person there, but I want to play you, where is it at here? It's right here. This was one of the things it said that I didn't capture on video. Fed's Jerome Powell said cyber danger poses a possible systemic risk to the financial system. We need to be prepared. Look, this is what I have said a million times over. The narrative has been that retail investors can manipulate the markets. We have said, right, on this channel that, it is acknowledged that the oil cyber attack that happened, antiquated, vulnerable to the market, a vulnerable system. Market infrastructure is vulnerable and antiquated. Again, with the largest meat producer, the entire market infrastructure, antiquated and vulnerable. It's over and over and over again. And now you hear Jerome Powell talking about it. And if we go back to what I had here about Ron Hammond, let me pull this up because this is Senator Toomey talking about stablecoins, CBDCs with Jerome Powell. And listen here.
Items, but it's considerably broader than it was. And I would also point out, and I know you're aware of this, but the Fed's projections of inflation have consistently been off. They've consistently been low. And at some point, I think we need to acknowledge that this is not playing out the way I think the Fed had hoped. Let me shift the topic to a central bank digital currency.
Really quickly, did you notice how he lit him up with one real quick and then doesn't give him a chance to answer? And this is after I blew one up your tailpipe. Let me go ahead and shift to the new topic here.
I'm increasingly intrigued by the opportunities that a properly designed central bank digital currency could provide to the U.S. To name a few, instant zero-cost payments, interoperability and programmability with smart contracts, international competitiveness all come to mind.
Yeah.
But getting the design correct, getting it right is essential. For instance, the privacy of Americans has to be respected. We shouldn't design a central bank digital dollar that allows the government to spy on Americans' every transaction.
Amen.
And the Fed is certainly not suited to be a retail bank, and so we certainly shouldn't try to turn it into one. In my view, privately issued digital currencies should be able to coexist with a digital dollar if we go down that road. And private sector developers certainly should be able to innovate either on or in an interoperable fashion with a digital dollar. So I'm not asking you to opine on any of these things, but it seems to me the decision about whether or not to go down this road is transformational, and there are very, very important and sensitive design issues that would have to be resolved. So I think that ought to be done in a transparent process with political accountability, which is to say with congressional input. Could you comment on how important you think it is to have congressional authorization if we're going to go down the road of a digital dollar?
Now listen very carefully what he says. And Senator Toomey basically said congressional approval is what we're talking about. Listen to that last part there again.
The privacy of Americans has to be respected. We shouldn't design a central bank digital dollar that allows the government to spy on Americans' every transaction. And the Fed is certainly not suited to be a retail bank, and so we certainly shouldn't try to turn it into one. In my view, privately issued digital currencies should be able to coexist with a digital dollar if we go down that road. And private sector developers certainly should be able to innovate either on or in an interoperable fashion with a digital dollar. So I'm not asking you to opine on any of these things, but it seems to me the decision about whether or not to go down this road is transformational, and there are very, very important and sensitive design issues that would have to be resolved. So I think that ought to be done in a transparent process with political accountability, which is to say with congressional input. Could you comment on how important you think it is to have congressional authorization if we're going to go down the road of a digital dollar?
Congressional authorization. And he talks about the public-private relationship between stablecoins, basically, and the actual government itself. Listen to Jerome Powell's response.
I'd be glad to. And by the way, I agree. This is critical work that we want to take forward.
This is critical work that we want to take forward. Listen here.
So the laws that were the relevant parts of our law were written long before digital finance was a thing. And and a central bank digital currency could take many forms, it is possible that under some forms you'd be able to make an argument that it would be authorized under current law. But I think this is such a fundamental issue. It would be ideal if this were to be a product of broad consultation and ultimately authorizing legislation from Congress.
There you have it, agreeing that we need to hear from Congress and have legislation come from Congress. This is where we are, ladies and gentlemen, whether we're talking about the Ripple SEC case or whether we're talking about central bank digital currencies or stable coins, it's all coming back to Congress. And what did Ron Hammond tell us? That the President Working Group, looking in as early October, so in the next week or two, we could hear the recommendations for a regulatory framework at the very least for stable coins, which are, as CBDCs, the on and off ramps for this new digital world to everything or all the money, as they say at Ripple. Now, I remind you that there is this again here that he also said later in this conference, thanking to Breaking Market News, that the cyber danger poses a possible systemic risk to the financial system. We need to be prepared. And the only way to do that is to do this right here. And I played it again this morning, and I'm going to play it again right now.
We're also, as you know, investing heavily right now in building a new settlement system for instant payments in the U.S.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have him acknowledging to Senator Pat Toomey that we need to absolutely have congressional authorization to do the things that we need to do. There's a President Working Group in the next couple of weeks that's going to release recommendations for a regulatory framework, stable coins and CBDCs, and maybe even further on than that. But we know for a fact that the Fed is already invested heavily because they see that there is a huge cyber risk and it cannot be left open to attack. We've already seen all the other things that I mentioned as the narrative there. We cannot sit around and wait for this market infrastructure to be attacked at the Fed level. Can't happen. They can't let it happen. So this U.S. infrastructure bill, I feel, is much more important when it comes to blockchain and crypto than a lot of people realize. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know. Things are going to get interesting. And if we get the right kind of recommendations and framework, we just may see a Rocktober and a Moonvember. How about that one? That would be amazing, right? All right, make sure you check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. There's some great products and services I use each and every day, and they are trusted, vetted links with great specials and deals. So make sure you check them out. I'll catch you on the next one.